let's get started with adding our session browser. And we're going to base this on our room panel. And in the last video, I didn't cover how I made them, and there were some questions about it. So let's cover that first. So we'll name it session panel, and it's just an image, and it's this background image. And then there is a drop shadow on the right side or around it, and a canvas group to control it, so we can change if it's interactable, and we can hide the whole thing. And then we have a header background which stretches in the horizontal way. So if the parent becomes larger, it will stretch with it. So if we change it to 800, it scales up. And a height of 100, and it's the same panel, it's just slightly darker. So same image that we're using for the background here. Then we have a text mesh that is stretching with this size as well. And we're going to call it session list. And then we have a vertical layout group that we're using for our main panel for the different buttons here. And we are not going to have any buttons on our session panel, so we can hide that. And then we have this room panel, which is the center part, which is just a copy of this prefab. So this is a prefab, and in it is a similar prefab. And let's rename our room panel to session panel. And these are going to be like the headers, the name of the session, and player count, etc. And the whole thing needs to be bigger, so I think 1200 is going to be okay, and our session panel in here is maybe going to be 1000. And then we need to change our header here, so we are going to show the different parts instead of this text. So let's duplicate our text and we'll hide it, and we're not going to use this text, we're just going to use the UI element, and instead we are going to add a horizontal layout group, and each part here will be session name, and then map name, player count, and a join button. And we are going to uncheck all of this so it doesn't expand in any direction at all, and we will call it session item, and this will be a prefab later on that we will as well use here in our session list. So this header and the things we use in the list will be the same object. And under this one we want some texts. So first of all, we're going to have our the session name, and then we want a map, and then player count, and then we want a join button. So let's take our join button, maybe a size of 45 and 100, and call it join. So let's just rename this join button, then session name, map name, player count, and then we need to set up the width and height of these. So I think I'm going to go with a height of 50, and the session name can be 300. The map name can be slightly smaller, 200. Actually, let's make it the same, 300. Player count 200 something. Yeah, this looks all right. And then we have our join button. And let's change this so it stretches in the only vertical manner. and height 50. Okay, so now we can make a prefab out of this. So let's drag and drop it there, and hopefully we can add it to our vertical layout group here, and it should fill out those. And we need to have a little bit of a margin in our top, 50. Oops, 50. Let's increase the margin a tiny bit, 60. And maybe that button should have been a little bit smaller. So join button 40 instead, and save it. So now we have some margin between. And our initial session list item here shouldn't have a join button, but if we remove it, it's going to change the order of this. So we need it still to contain a fake element. So let's hide our button, and I duplicated that button, and then prefab, unpack, and then let's remove our text here and remove the image and the button. So we're just gonna have an empty element, or spacer, maybe call it spacer. Okay, so now we should be able to make this in our code, so it adds session list item automatically, and then you can press this join button to join whatever session you want. And of course the start game button here is going to be a join or a back button. Because after we have opened the session browser, we only want the player to be able to go back. And maybe we want to create another button later on called the create session. But yeah, this is how it's going to look, and now we're going to add code to handle this filling of sessions automatically. And it shouldn't say room and session list. There we go. Okay, so now we can save it. To update this list through code, we're going to use the same method as we did with our room panel, where we are getting room members and instantiating them. However, this time we have our list, which contains a couple of more parameters like name, the map, players, and a button. So we will create a script that is attached to this game object that will help us with that. So go into scripts, UI, create new C# script, session item UI handler, and let's open that in Visual Studio. So let's get rid of the start and update function, and we are going to use TM Pro. And then we are going to have a couple of serialized fields. So the first serialized field is going to be a text mesh pro UI, session name text, and then the same for our map, and then number of players. And finally, we need a method to update this. So let's make a public set texts, taking a string, session name, map name, number of players. And this will take our different text meshes, session name text.text, and put set a variable for that. And then we need to handle our button click. So let's add a public void on join button clicked. That we are not going to do anything yet with, but we will hook this up from our main menu UI handler. Then let's go to our main menu UI handler and do exactly the same thing as we did with the room details. So let's add a header, session details, and add our vertical layout group, session list layout group. And then we need our prefab that we can instantiate. So serialized field, game object, session list prefab. And yeah, that's enough. Then we want to subscribe to our lobby callback so we can get information about which sessions are available. So let's add lobby callbacks, hit show potential fixes, and implement interface, which adds it at the bottom. And here we have them. So let's move them inside our lobby events. And let's use our utils here, utils, debug log, and then add each of them. And I actually forgot to add the panel. So after player panel, let's add a serialized field, canvas group, session panel. And our session panel, we need to hook that up into our UI code as well. Hide all panels, game object, set active, false. Okay, so now that we've added this, we want to start reacting to whatever is happening. So when somebody is pressing on session browser clicked, we want to hide all panels, and then we want to take our session panel and set active true. And once we've received this click, we want to do the same thing as we are doing when we are joining a room. First of all, we need to check if we are connected to the master server. If we're not, we need to connect. And if we are connected, then we can go ahead and join a lobby. But we need some code for that. So let's go up into our code. And before we have our quantum here, join random. So here, let's add void join lobby. We're checking that the client operation join lobby is successful. If it's not, then we are writing this error and we're returning. And we need to call this code, and we are going to do, as I said before, the exactly same check as before. So check if the client is not null and client is connected, then we are issuing join lobby. Otherwise, we are going to go with connect to master. And once we have connected to master, then let's check where we have that on connected to master join. So we're gonna do if quick play auto join enabled, else. So we're checking if we have this quick play auto join enabled. In that case, we're joining the room automatically. If not, we are joining the lobby. Then we need to react to when the information is updated in our room. So our on room list updated, let's replace that with a better message. So we'll write on room list updated and provide the rooms count. We will get the list with room information that we need to iterate here, and we will use the same code that we had before with clearing the members of our vertical layout group, same as we did before. So let's actually reuse our code for this. And so if we look at our clear room member list here, we can make this more generic. So let's call this clear children layout group, which will take a transform, call it layout group. And instead of taking our room member here, we'll take our transform and on. There we go. And the same with our transform. So now we have a method that we can reuse instead of writing, well, the same method really. So let's throw this in there, and it was the room something list layout group, and then we need to click to transform that. And then we can go back to our code that we were working on. Here we go. And clear children, and it was the session. There we go. Transform. So now when the list is updated, we are clearing the vertical layout group of its children, and then we can add new children to it. Then to figure out which children we should add, we need to iterate through our list here with the room info. So let's do a for each loop. So we'll do a for each loop, room info, call it room info in room list, and loop through the information we find in there. And one thing that we are interested in is the map name. The other information is available here, like room name and how many members it has, etc. So, but map name, we need to get that from the custom properties. So let's check if our room has a custom property. And we stored that in room info, custom properties, try get value, map GUID, and out is going to be a var map ID. So if it can find it, it will execute this part of the code. And we need to, from the GUID, figure out the name of the map. So to do that, we need to do sort of the reversed way of that we did before. And we need to then assign a variable, all maps in resources, load all the map assets from quantum editor setting instance database path in resources. So once we have done that, we can iterate through all of our map resources and see if we have a map that map asset object with value that matches the map ID provided here, and we need to cast it into a long, as this is a long value. And once we have done that, then we have figured out, okay, we actually have our map that we want, and so we can assign map name is going to be map.name, and once we have found it, we can break our for each loop here and exit. So that is, well, a little bit of code we needed to actually reach this point. And but if for some reason there was no room name provided, we are still going to continue. And let's start, after we've done this, to write to our debug log. So let's write room name provided with the room information.name map, and just whatever we found here, player count, room info.player count, and then max players is open and visibility. So then we are getting something in our debug logs that we can use. And then we will do the same thing as we did with the room members information. We will instantiate an object, and it will be a session list prefab, and we will attach it to the session list layout group.transform. So it's already added there directly. And then we need to set the information. So we'll do instantiated object get component, and here we can get directly our session item UI handler, and then we have set text, and so session name is going to be our room info.name. Then we have map name. Then we have number of players, and here we'll make a combined information. So we have room info.player count, and then we'll make a forward slash, and then we'll do room info.max players. So then we have instantiated that, and we are clearing the old ones before we start doing that, so that should be all good. So let's save this and try it in Unity and see what happens. So let's make sure that we have hooked up everything here. So now we have our session details. So we need to add the session panel first. And then under the session panel, we have our session panel vertical layout group. And then we have our prefab. And yeah, so those are all set. And then we have our session list item here. So let's open that and check that we have used this script, and we haven't. So the script needs to go in there, session item UI handler, and hook up that one. And we haven't done any code for the join button yet, so let's just leave that. Save, and then these that we have as default, we can remove them or not show them at least. Okay, so I think we are ready to try it now. I forgot to enable the session browser button. It doesn't do anything. So let's go into our button session browser, have a look at, okay, it says no function, so it needs to react on session browser client. Now we can try it, and I have a client running, so something should show up. Let's hit session browser, and yes, we got a name and nothing else. Okay, there's one more. Oh, actually it says here 1 out of 20, but it's not correctly aligned. So let's see. And well, okay, so here we have the stretch. It should be 0 and 0. And child alignment should be upper left. And then we are missing map, and the join doesn't do anything. So let's make sure that those changes are added to, well, when we are not in play mode. So let's exit play mode, and right, left, 0, 0, upper left. And then we had some issues, and one of them was that the map wasn't showing as it should. So let's go into our code, and the reason why it's not in here is because when we are creating the room, we are not supplying that information. So let's see, join, random, or create, and then we have enter room params, which we have up here, and we have custom room properties. So why doesn't it show up? Well, because the lobby needs to have that information as well. So we are going to do enter room params, room options, and then we have custom properties for lobby. And it takes in a string array of whatever we have as key values in our hash table here. So let's make a new string array, and angel brackets the name of this, and close it. Then it will show up. So that's yeah, that's what we need to do. Then for the button to work, we need to join a specific room. So instead of join random or create room, we are going to add a join room with a string room name. So it will be the same for this. But instead of issuing open random or create room, we are going to enter the specific room with the specific name. So create enter room params, here we go, should have the room name instead. But we are not going to do the op join random rooms param. Instead we're going to do open op join room and the room params. And if we're not able to do that, we are going to log an error. So now we need to call our join room, and let's make a event for that. So we have our room events, no, up. So here we have on quick play, on start game, on session, and we'll do a public void on room joined clicked and string room name. There we go. And then we'll do a room. So if we are clicking on room joined clicked, then we need to hide our panels, and then we have the room panel, and we're showing that instead, and then we are issuing our join room, and that should take care of joining and showing the information. So now our session item handler here needs to call this function. So have some formatting. If we get this, then we will find object of type main menu UI handler, and then call on join room clicked with our whatever we have in our session text here, session name text. So when we're hitting that button, then it will find our main menu UI handler, go in here and execute this code. So let's save that and try it in Unity. So let's fix our prefab first. So we have our button here that needs to have some code in it or react to some code. So session on join button clicked, and then we'll save and start up my client here, and we'll see, maybe it works better. Session. So now we have at least a little bit better formatting, still a little bit to the left, I think. We can solve that with some margin maybe. Padding, let's do a 15. Yay, now it's sort of centered. And join, and it's joined the room, and we can start the game. Awesome. So before I forget, let's fix this in our play mode. I'd like to give a shout out to our Patreon supporters. It helps us with every single contribution that we can get. So please consider supporting us on Patreon. The link is in the description. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.